You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. He's coming in from the bathroom. He's made it. He's not missing another week. He's back. We're all back this week. That's right. What would a start of a show be without a few shenanigans? I mean, come on. We got to have them. That is what the Red Moon Podcast is all about. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, and
a person who can talk.
A person who can talk.
It's amazing.
None of us could talk last week.
None of us can talk ever.
Because we weren't here. I had a tape.
I was
segment.
here. I'm always here.
We're always watching. Yeah.
You were here.
Name that movie.
You were here.
I was. On a taped segment.
But you were here. Physically.
Well, actually, that's true.
You were physically here.
I was in bed.
Yeah.
I said, well,
Angels
in
in the outfield.
It is right. You're right.
Who's
the actor? Angels in the outfield.
You're talking about Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah. Hey, you got it. You got it.
I don't know why I thought Lloyd was wrong for some reason, but I'm like, what?
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I should have. Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Always watching.
That was perfect.
I do
that
not
was
remember that. I don't remember any of that.
Very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Very end when he flies away.
Even though you can't always see us, we're always watching.
Is that on Disney Plus?
It should be. I mean, I don't know, but it is a Disney movie.
That's one Disney movie I would watch. I only watched the back catalog.
That was a great movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do remember him being in it. Is that Danny Glover?
God's Thumbnail.
Yes.
Yeah,
Danny
Glover was in that.
The homeless woman from New York, Lost in New York. Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2, yeah.
She's the nanny.
Yeah.
She's the foster mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Not the nanny. The
bird
foster
lady?
Mom. Yes.
The bird lady,
Yep.
yeah. Pigeon lady.
I'm telling you, she was an iconic
Mike
character
Tyson's
actress.
favorite character.
That's it.
Pigeon.
Pigeons.
It's like, I like that lady. She got pigeons.
They got pigeons. Leaving my pigeons. We got a great show. Welcome back, everybody. We were off last week. Had a little bit of work schedule conflict, so I was in bed comfortably while a pre-taped live show aired.
Pre-taped.
But we did have two huge reviews last week.
We did.
One huge review. And even that you could probably say is not huge considering the huge dive it took at the box office. So that is none other than Ant-Man Quantumania. And I think before we get into this week's review, which happens to be Cocaine Bear, the big one on the block, we're waiting one more week. I know we
quite
promised
the throne
it.
Ant-Man, but it came close.
It came close. We're waiting one more week to review Women Talking. Next week is our Oscar show.
Next week before Oscar. And then we'll have all of the Best Picture nominees reviewed. So.
And it'll be just in time to give our picks of what we think will win and what we hope will win. Unfortunately.
We say it every year. Like, we're always like, oh, this year's the worst Oscars. But it's just true. Like, they just keep getting worse and worse. Like, the only saving grace this year has really been Top Gun and Avatar 2, which really, to me, isn't even a Best Picture movie, but was one of the better pictures this year just because they've all been garbage.
Of the year we got. Yeah. That's right. Let's real quick do a little dive into Ant-Man because we didn't really give it a chance to discuss it. Obviously, we had our review last week.
Yeah.
You ended up giving it 2 out of 4
I gave
stars.
it 2 last week, but like the more and more I brew on it, the more and I still say it's not the worst of the movies that they've released since Endgame, but it's still not good. The CGI is just Marvel's CGI has gotten worse and worse, and just I don't know. Every time I think about like the movie now, I'm just like tonally, like from a written perspective, a lot of the things that I didn't think were that bad while watching the movie was mostly because I was filling in the gaps for Marvel. Like there were certain things that I was like, oh, I don't mind that because I either knew from the comics what was going on or from other science fiction, like the what was it, the when the scene where he splits into multiple people, the
Yeah,
probability thing.
Yeah.
I liked that because I mean it reminded me a lot of just like the concept in general. Like there's a whole episode of Rick and Morty that kind of goes over like uncertainty and this whole concept of splitting into two and everything. So it was already something that from another science fiction thing that like I was well aware of that explained it much better. So watching it in the movie, one, visually I liked it because it did look like ants. Like that was nice, but
Yeah.
I feel like the writing, looking back now, I'm kind of like, well, a lot of it was me just already being familiar with things and filling in the gaps for the writers, which is still bad writing. It's like just because I know what's going on based off of something else, and maybe that's not even what they intended. I'm just assuming based off of something else I've seen that that's what they're intending, which may not have been at all. Like that's just me taking for granted and doing the work for the writers.
Well, I was
Yeah.
going to say, and definitely, 'cause that's exactly where I landed. I was more on the side of I ended up giving it 1.5 out of 4 stars, and I put it towards the bottom of the list in terms of even with Phase 4 included.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is I think I sent it in the text when I sent
I still
my
say
rankings.
Eternals is the worst.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That's where I think I ranked it at the bottom. But I ultimately ended up settling because to me, I'm like, I have to quit giving them the benefit of the doubt. They continue to screw us over every time we get our hopes up and continually saying, oh, well, the next one's going to, improve upon the formula so much and tell you where we're headed. I thought Kang was weak. I'm just like this sob story of a guy who's supposed to be this conqueror.
Yeah.
He's just some kind of soft melodramatic mope that walks around half the time, and then technically he's coming back, but they defeat him, and I'm like, why does he get defeated in
Yeah.
the movie when he's not dead? Like I hated that. I was like, this is such
He
a
has
red
so many
herring.
variants.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Which
And I
show
think
at the
again
end.
that relies on material that you may or may not have seen. Like if you haven't watched Loki, and then or if you're not a in-depth fan of the comic books, then you don't know that Kang has multiple variants. They don't really do a great job of explaining that until the end.
Credits.
Or what his goal in the with the multiverse even is. Like, I mean, you kind of understand what his goal is if you've seen Loki, but other than him briefly kind of skimming through this idea of, well, even these hints about, oh, well, if I don't get out, there's going to be worse than me coming, which is alluded to in Loki about like this whole multiversal war amongst all the Kangs.
And also, what pisses me off there, isn't that the same freaking Thanos deal? It's like, humanity's so bad, I want to rid the world of half of all living things.
Well, that's not Kang's goal.
No, but Kang's goal is to destroy all the multiverses.
His goal is just to rule the multiverse. Like,
So,
he just
okay, well, then
he's
that
a conqueror.
clearly wasn't
he's Kang
me.
the conqueror.
and he thinks he's the competent one, but it's the best form of him.
The funny thing is, that's actually something that I came back to later, that the movie, because you see at the end, in the end credits scene, this whole like arena of Kangs working together, and I was like, okay, but that's not fully explained, because in Loki they make it sound like all the Kangs are at war with each other, with the best Kang wanting to rule everything,
right?
Which would make sense if they have this conqueror mindset. Why would they work together? Like one of them's going to be like, I'm the best Kang, I'm going to rule you. But then you get to the end of the movie and they're all working together. So it's like, so what's changed between Loki and this now that's not being explained, because now they're working together, whereas at the end of Loki, the variant that's shown there is just like, oh, well, I've done the things I've done to prevent all these other Kangs from destroying the multiverses in this huge war that they constantly have with each other. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's they are teasing things, I guess, now at this point. Like, I won't critique them for that.
One whole phase into
yeah. But it's one of those things where I'm just like,
the
but
next big villain.
You've wasted, like, when you add up the hours of the Infinity Saga, and it's even less than Phase 4 by itself because of the Disney Plus shows.
What a waste.
It is. It's ridiculous to think, well, where have you spent all this time and effort if we know way less at this point in the Multiverse Saga than we did in the Infinity Saga by this time?
Well, I thought, too, the introduction of Kang, I mean, this was supposed to be the introduction of the new big bad
villain,
and it's supposed to outdo Thanos in terms of,
you would hope,
in
if you
villainry.
want people to feel hyped for this.
But I felt like, and I've read something somewhere. I'm trying to remember what I was reading, but they said that Kang is the perfect villain for the Avengers to go up against, but he was not the perfect villain for this movie. He wasn't the villain that should have been in this movie, and that's why I kind of feel like, even if they were going, I hated the character so much. But the what's his name, MODOK?
MODOK.
Oh,
I was like, if they would have made him,
too.
if they would have made him the villain of this movie and then allude to Kang more towards the end and in the credit scene, and then have him come in, much bigger later, I would be okay with that.
Right.
But I felt like
Well,
him as a
they do
villain
with
in this
Thanos.
movie. Yeah. Him as because at a point you see Thanos a couple of times, and then you finally see him
He's
put
in
the
the
glove
shadows.
on,
Yep.
and he says, if you want something done, you've got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And then oh crap, here we go.
Right.
Kang just did not have that good start.
Nope.
So I don't take him seriously as a villain.
He was
yet.
a punchline.
Yeah,
Or I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Well, MODOK was too,
was
yeah.
a punchline.
Yeah.
MODOK was a punchline and thought of as a joke.
Yeah.
He was just kind of this background nemesis that was supposed to be.
Well, he's supposed to be this killing
comic
machine,
relief.
but he gets his butt handed to him by a teenage girl.
Yep.
I think
I'm
what
like-
makes me aggravated about MODOK too is the fact that really he served no purpose in this movie other than he's a character that's popular from the comics that they were like, oh, well, we could throw him in this, and well, he's kind of silly looking in the comics, so rather than even try to make him threatening, we're just going to make him a huge joke.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I get it, like he has a goofy character design, but even I was looking at some more of the modern comics and different things and his character design, they could have made him scarier looking. Yes, the big head with the little arms things would have always been goofy, and they probably would have had to make a joke at first about that, like classic Marvel used to do, like the Infinity Saga. We'll joke about, the raccoon in the tree, but then we'll show how they can actually kick ass, and then it's
Yes.
okay. And it's like, I think if they had done the same thing with MODOK, it made him look a little bit more menacing, made him act menacing rather than goofy, had someone maybe joke about him at first, but then show that he is this deadly threat.
Right.
People would have been like, okay, yeah, this was kind of silly, but we understand it, we get it. But now Marvel's kind of thrown that concept away. Instead of, joking at first, but then showing why they're serious, it's just all a joke, and it gets old. Their last several movies, Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder, the only one that wasn't played as a joke was Wakanda Forever, and that's only because of Chadwick Boseman. And they had to have this whole, well, now it's got to be somber in honor of him.
And that one was too dry and too long-winded. And I think that's what kills me, too, is we saw not only double down in Quantumania, but there were so many times in a theater that really wasn't filled, but that the jokes
Cocaine Bear was
missed.
full. Was
Yeah.
more full.
Yeah.
I came up with a false prediction. I thought that Cocaine Bear was going to win out the weekend.
I did too,
surprisingly.
but that was just based solely on our theater.
However, and we're going to talk about it in our headlines a little bit with Disney in general, it did drop. Quantumania dropped 69%, almost 70%, which is one of the worst performances. It's the lowest of the Marvel films, I believe, so far.
The biggest drop, I think,
But and before that, it was
Thor.
Black Widow.
Or I thought it was Thor before
It was like
that.
67% for Black Widow.
Really?
But even that was given like the first big
That was
welcome back.
actually
and
it during COVID and was,
streamed on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But even still, it's just like at this point, the problem with the whole movie and the way it was framed for the audience is, it looked like one big joke. They're not taking this seriously anymore. They think that their fans are along for the ride no matter what. They of course had all the little woke jabs that they wanted to throw in there, whether it was the daughter's protesting and peacefully, and the cops break her down and drag her off the jail, and it was just little jabs that I'm just like, okay, this doesn't warrant any kind of screen time. There's no human connection being built between, again, what you would hope to see is like between Ant-Man and his daughter and growing closer, especially after the warm embrace of him coming back in Endgame and actually seeing her grown up. And I'm just like, I mean, even the Quantumania realm itself, I told y'all this walking out of the theater. My biggest problem is when science fiction films have their own line in the sand and they cross it to the absurdity of not even adhering to any kind of rules they've built, but just getting so abstract to the point of anybody could have made up this. There felt like there was no ground and no foundation laid in terms of the world that they built in this quantum universe.
Yeah.
It was literally like, okay, it used to be they had to have these suits with helmets on to survive. Now they're falling through and everything's okay and they're walking around like normal people. Oh, it's just another world, but it's a universe on a small scale. Like, there was just nothing creative about it. It was just schlock from the very get-go.
Yeah.
And I never once felt like, oh, wow, they really took the time to take these set pieces,
make it
whether
feel
they
like a
were
real
action
place.
or even fill and build a real place. They just stuck a bunch of weird elements in there and said, "Oh well, it's quantum physics. How do you know?"
Yeah.
I'm like, of course I don't know, but that's what you're supposed to do as a creative writer, is make me believe it's a real place.
But it's funny too. The last time we see the quantum realm before Ant-Man Quantumania, it's just a space with
just like an amalgamation of colors and like a kaleidoscope,
almost like a nebula that you see in outer space.
Yes.
and they're floating around like there's no even solid ground, and it's just like then in this movie there's worlds within worlds and all of this stuff, and I'm like, that's just you trying to, you've got to have a movie down there, you've got to have a whole story take place down there, and there was nothing for Kang to conquer in the other times that we see the quantum realm. So I just didn't understand like where they came. Maybe they went deeper into the quantum realm or whatever, but it just didn't. It was like you have to come up with something for this movie, so you just pull this thing out of your hat, and it just didn't make any sense.
Well, Marvel has just become. They started to rest on their laurels that they know the fan base is going to show up, and the only way that we can continue to convince them that like, no, you're headed in the wrong direction, is to do exactly what happened, which is, yeah, you show up for the first weekend, you're going to get that first weekend boom at the box office, but if it drops this bad, and if you look it up on Rotten Tomatoes, even score for critics and audiences, it's in the 40s.
The audience score was high.
No, it's dropped
precipitously. Because it was in the 80s, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
it was.
It
initially, it was like 40-something and 80-something.
That's the only thing so far about Marvel that I could say, sadly, is that
fans are holding on no matter what.
The hardcore fan base is sticking to it. And I think in the long run, as we...
Sorry, I do stand corrected. It's 83%.
Yeah. But even Eternals is in the 70s. There's not a rotten Marvel movie amongst the audience score. And that's in one of the rare cases that I feel like when you look at the Rotten Tomatoes score for Marvel movies, I tend to side with critics a little bit more than audiences, and that doesn't happen with most movies. But that's just because I think at this point, the Rotten Tomatoes score... The people who, because it's an aggregate, like we've talked before. So the people who are going on Rotten Tomatoes and reviewing it are the Marvel fans. The ones that are going to love it no matter what. Yeah. And obviously the numbers are showing that the average audiences aren't showing up because they're dropping so much.
Right.
And people will be like, well, look at the Rotten Tomatoes audiences love it. It's like, no, those are the hardcore fans that just... They're not going to give a crap no matter what Marvel does, because it's like, oh, I saw that in the comics. Now it's on the screen. That's cool. And it's like, yeah. But I want more.
That's true, though, yeah.
But I hate that. And I was like, I understand it. Like being a passionate fan, it's cool when you see something realized on screen. But at the same time, if it's done poorly, if it's garbage, that's why we didn't like Rings of Power. We're going to get into that later. I mean, with Warner Brothers, a new announcement. It's one of those things where it's like, I just don't want content for content's sake. And I know there's a lot of people in nerd culture or whatever you want to call it, pop culture, with that just get excited and like, oh, I'm going to always watch this because I'm a Star Trek fan, or I'm always going to watch this because I'm a Star Wars fan. But I think that's a detriment to creative processes, because when you just consume everything because you're a diehard fan and you have to, you're never going to get anything better. Because
and let's face it. I mean, again, ticket sales are what matter most, though. Regardless of if your hardcore fans show up or not on week one or even afterward.
Well, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing Marvel boom at the opening weekend, and then
Well, it's word of mouth. I mean, if you go and look at reviews of this movie, there's not a lot of positive reviews, even from some of the diehard Marvel people that do YouTube reviews. They're still not that great review.
Oh no!
And it's like, so I think people are seeing that. They're not going to see it. They're not telling their friends and family to go check this movie out. They're saying, I saw it opening weekend. It was terrible. Don't waste your money.
Nope.
And I think that's why you see this drastic drop, and I hope that drop continues. Same. I don't want people telling people to go see the movie. It's like, we go see it because, number one, we're going to review it, and number two, like, that's what we do. So it's like,
and I think it's been at least the last 3 Marvel flicks that we've walked out of, and I've told y'all every time, I was like, I'm done with Marvel.
Yeah,
like I just have no It's going to be harder to win me back at this point.
Yeah,
that I'm going to be more and hypercritical of every iteration that comes out, and that's simply because you cannot have something like the Infinity Saga exist where it does, and then literally have just tried to hold me over, not only through movies, but even through the handful of shows that I've watched that are supposed to all be interconnected, and nothing seems to matter. There's not one thing that seems to matter.
This movie was kind of the hinge for me. I wasn't really done with Marvel because they just really hadn't gotten much into Kang or the multiverse yet. So I was kind of like, well, when Ant-Man comes out, that I'll kind of know more whether. And now that I've seen it, no, I'm kind of in line with you. I mean, I'm still the only one I'm still looking forward to would be Guardians, and that's because James Gunn, and because
we know that's his swan song for the
it's a wrap
universe.
up to that trilogy, so I'm not expecting it to play into the overall picture. If it doesn't, that's fine. Like really, at this point, all I care about is if they give it a satisfying send off, and then I would be done for the moment. I mean, I'll still probably check out Marvel stuff.
Even if I enjoy it, it's going to be disappointing because I already see it as being a standalone, like you said, to tie up because we already know what
many of those actors aren't returning.
No, Chris Pratt's probably not coming back as Star-Lord.
We know
it's going to be in an
Bautista
Avengers.
isn't.
Dave Bautista's not coming back.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Gillian comes back. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be because I mean, what else she got going on? But I'm not at a point to think that
I
is
don't
going to
think
be.
Saldanha's coming back either, especially
Really?
now that
Yeah.
she's got the Avatar series that she's full force into.
True.
So.
Yeah, she would definitely be a big one that wouldn't come back. But I see it as more of a swan song for James Gunn, his love letter to Marvel and all the years that he spent with them, and then also to just those band of characters, and it being the swan song for them as well. And it's like, even if that's good, kind of like No Way Home was the only decent thing out of the entire Phase 4 of Marvel.
And again, because it was a wrap up to what we had with Spider-Man.
Right.
So.
And it tied up a huge, it basically gave fans this love letter of, hey, you remember all these iterations of Spider-Man? They actually were in their
gave
own.
nice closure to all three of them.
And
which
it
was
introduced the
impressive.
multiverse in a way, yeah. So
And it's like, I'm just tired of being strung along, and I'm tired of having to show up expecting, and especially the way they just keep on laying on, oh, no, this one's going to be the next big entry. Oh, this one's going to reveal so much. And it's just all fodder. It's like, come on, I know you're just, at this point, it is propaganda. You're just blatantly playing it up to get our butts in the seat for the first week. And yet, it isn't going to mean anything in the long run because, it doesn't have any staying power. Yeah. And that's why I think after this week with Creed 3, and of course this movie that we're about to show our review of, it very easily could fall out of even the top 3.
I
So
think
we'll
we
see.
should probably get into our review.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to find out. But let's get into the review of, the new big boy on the block, Cocaine Bear.
Catching the internet by storm and generating tons of buzz around the stranger-than-fiction premise, Cocaine Bear has finally arrived. Pulling in impressive numbers as people showed up in droves to see the comedic fictionalization based on the true story of a Georgia bear who ingested cocaine. Directed by Elizabeth Banks and written by Jimmy Warden, in September of 1985, Andrew Thornton, head of a drug smuggling ring in Kentucky, was smuggling drugs out of Georgia when, for reasons not fully known, he was forced to toss his payload from the plane, jumping out himself over Tennessee, wearing $15 million worth of cocaine strapped to his body. Thornton, however, did not make it and was found dead in a driveway in Knoxville, Tennessee. These events are all portrayed mostly accurate on film, but from here the story diverges. In real life, a black bear was found dead in Chattahoochee, Georgia, and upon autopsy, it was discovered the bear had found part of the missing cocaine, ingested it, and died from an overdose. In Banks' wildly ridiculous film, the bear does cocaine and promptly goes on a killing spree where gory hijinks ensue. While being openly honest about being a fictionalized what-if of the real incident, the film promoted itself as an offbeat horror comedy, a fitting genre for again a story that itself already is stranger than fiction. Unfortunately, however, the film fails to do anything interesting with the idea. The concept of what if the bear got high and killed people is basically all we get. With lackluster writing and a story that is all over the place, the film gets old quickly. Add in poor acting and delivery of comedic lines, and we have a comedy that is very hit or miss, leaving nothing for the over-the-top gore to fall back on. There is a point where excessive gore can add a surreal and comedic effect to a comedic horror movie. Other movies such as Evil Dead, Zombieland, or Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, known as Dead Alive here in the States, all manage to use the gore to accentuate the ridiculous and comedic nature of the film. With such uneven comedy and poor writing in Cocaine Bear, the gore just feels like it's there for the sake of being edgy. In fact, edgy seems to be what the film attempts most and fails in every regard. From over-the-top gore, incompetent figures in positions of power, and 12-year-olds doing coke, more focus was put into being shocking than clever, or developing witty dialogue or character depth. Starring Kerry Russell, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Aldrich Ehrenreich, and the late Ray Liotta, while all talented in their own right, not a one delivers a memorable performance. Lacking any depth or character growth to fall back on, all we have is shock factor, that after years of Hollywood torture porn and Oscar baity art house schlock, nothing in the film is actually shocking, just gross and in poor taste. There will be those who love it, of course, and if all you need is to see a bear mauling people in horrible CGI, you'll be happy. But I truthfully get more entertainment out of bad Sci-Fi Channel originals. I give Cocaine Bear 1.5 out of 4 stars.
There you have it, 1.5 out of 4 stars.
I didn't like it.
Yep.
I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad sci-fi originals, the people who made Sharknado are now making Attack of the Meth Gator.
yeah.
So.
The Meth Gator. And I bet it'll be better than this.
I bet it will be.
Probably. Anytime you can get someone shooting about 50 rounds out of a 25 round mag, it's great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Never having to reload.
Yeah.
I love the sci-fi horror flicks. They're terrible and awful. They're great.
But at least they know what they are, and I don't know. This movie just it promotes itself as being a much better movie, and it is the no better quality than Sharknado. At least Sharknado is entertaining.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean at least there's 20 of those.
Yeah.
That plays into the silly nature of it. I mean, it's just like, how many of these can we do? Sharknado's in space and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, it has gone off the rails, but that's part of the entertainment. That's what they're going for. In this film, I felt like they weren't really going for that. They wanted to take a true story or something based on true events and try to twist it, kind of like Tarantino did with
Oh gosh, Inglourious Bastards.
no, Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with the story of the Manson murders and stuff like that. And I thought, like, of course, his was amazing, but this movie was just gore porn. Is like all it was, and it was not even. It wasn't even done well. No. Like, I mean, there's
cheesy CGI.
No, there's
like
80s slasher films that are that make more sense when it comes to Friday the 13th. Those movies and that kind of stuff makes more sense.
Yeah,
this was just.
It got to the point where some of the violence was not. They were trying to play it off as funny, and I'm like, no, this is just grotesque and inhumane. I'm not laughing because look, I don't care if some nitwit over here was a jerk, but then he just automatically somehow gets his head shot off, and I'm supposed to be like, oh my gosh, that's gross, and oh well, he deserved it. Ha ha ha. Move on. Like
it left you thinking, why?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, why did you just have that happen? Like, I mean,
right. Well, and that's the thing. So much of the writing got caught up in I think you as an audience, it kind of removed you as an audience member just viewing a spectacle of a good story playing out. Like, there were just so many times I was taken out of the moment because it was kind of like, how do we get more crazy with the next stunt that we pull?
Yeah. It really was shock for the sake of shock factor. Like I said, in the review, it feels like they were just like that was really the only goal they had in mind. Like, they didn't focus on any type of depth or writing or story. Literally, the only thing I think Elizabeth Banks was going for was how edgy can I be? Look at this. Look at me doing this,
dude. The moment I was done was with the kids doing coke.
And the writer too, because I know he bragged about that scene and he said, well, when I gave it to the producers, I really thought they wouldn't go for the movie and they wouldn't make it because of that scene, but everybody loved it. And he even talks about the gore and how, like, when you go so over the top, it becomes the slapstick thing that turns into comedy. He's like, in some vein, yes. I mentioned in the Zombieland. What were some of the others? Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
Yep.
That movie is absolutely hilarious. But there is, yes, I agree. Sometimes when you go so over the top, it does accentuate the goofiness of the movie. But this doesn't accentuate anything. Like, it was literally shock factor for shock factor's sake. And at a certain point, you just get tired of seeing it. It's like there's nothing clever about it. There's nothing funny about it.
It was just, it was literally left up to you to be like, oh, they're not going to do that. They're not going to. Oh, they did it. Yeah. Oh, I didn't see them going to do that.
We've seen so many modern movies go just
Well, to me,
out there with gore and all kinds of stuff that it's like it's not shocking
it
anymore.
showcases, like you said, there is no wit, there is no actual creativity, because really what Hollywood has done now is said we're going to go so depraved that you don't think we can go that far. Then we're going to do it just to be like, yeah, we can. Yeah. We can go there. And
but it's
I'm
not surprising anymore because they're willing to go there.
Well, because we know the total depravity of Hollywood. We know it's already that way. We know it's a cesspool. It's like you don't have to have Harvey Weinstein getting more years in prison or a Rust shooter like Alec Baldwin getting off. We're going to talk about it. But it's like that's the problem, is there is no morality there. And the idea of, again, we've talked about this with several of our reviews, whether it be the Best Picture noms or other movies from this past year. When you don't start out, or when you take for granted that moral compass that the audience is walking in with, and you completely erode it away by trying to make something as ridiculous and gross and, again, depraved as what's in this film, you try to make it seem like it's approachable and that it's okay to laugh and to mock. And I'm like, no, this is just I brought up the movie from a few years ago about the puppets, the Happy Time Murders. And I know so many people who went to see that thinking it was going to be the Muppets, rated R Muppets. And yet they walked out because they thought it was just absolutely god-awful and terrible. And it was just crass for crass sake. You should just watch
Meet the Feeblemans. It's much better.
There you go.
The Feebles or the Feeblemans?
Oh, it's Meet the Feebles.
The Feeblemans are...
I'm the one who said that.
The Fablemans we saw. We met the Fablemans.
No, Meet the Feebles. Meet the Feebles. Peter Jackson again.
Yeah. But no, and again, there is a little bit of like, yes, when you watch even some of those from early Peter Jackson, it is...
They're crass, too.
It's crass, but it never takes itself seriously, and it's not trying to set up a moral premise.
South Park's a great example because it can be crass and crude, but there's actually wit there, and even when they're being crude, you can see the joke that they're trying. It's not just... I mean, yes, early South Park, I won't say that. Early South Park was sometimes crass for the sake of being crass, but... When you could tell that they're actually lambasting something particular and there's actual wit there, and it's not just, we're making toilet jokes just for the sake of making toilet jokes, then I kind of understand, because the crassness is being used to enforce the theme and the moral that they're trying to make. That's a little bit different to me than just the sake of, let's have this person's head blown off and this person's skin themselves all the way down the highway for no other reason that we just want to shock people.
Or have somebody's guts come out and baby bears eat it right in front of them.
Yeah,
like that was just stupid. I kept looking at. You think about these scenes, like the head blown off. On the way home from the movie, I kept thinking of. I'm trying to. What's an example of when something like that's happened, but it actually fit the film and made the scene perfect? And I kept going back to Pulp Fiction. I shot Marvin in the face, and I'm like, that is when I saw that for the first time in theaters.
It shocks you.
I was just like,
but it does.
Oh my gosh! But then they spend 15 minutes arguing about why that happened and cleaning it up, and they take it to Tarantino's house, and they have this
into the morals and the themes of the movie.
Yes, well, they realize they did something wrong, for God's sakes. In this movie, people died in the most terrible freaking ways, nobody blinks.
Nope.
It was just like, and I think it goes to you talking about the depravity. I mean, it really does show the numbness that not only we as moviegoers, most people sat there and laughed through some of that stuff. Yeah. And I'm just like, this. I don't think it's funny.
Well, I don't either. I didn't think it was either.
Coming out of the theater, there was more concern for both the characters in the movie and some of the people in the audience for the baby bears than there were the actual people. Yeah. It's like, we just watched all these people get slaughtered, but Lord forbid somebody might want to shoot one of these baby bears.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately at the end of the movie, the bear is made out to be the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like, if that's where you...
Despite the fact that not everybody in the movie who died was
innocent.
Yeah, most of them were innocent. I mean, there were a few people that I would say, deserved it, but most of them were innocent people.
I mean, that was where I landed at the end of the day. I was just like, I walked out and I was just like, I can't pass that off as entertainment and feel good about having a laugh about something that is so demonstrably, inhuman. And I just feel like, when we as a culture... it's different when you go and see something edgy and you know it's supposed to be, but even this is as preposterous as the story was. And the way the movie opens up, of course, they start out with the true events, and then they mock and kind of cheekily admit we're about to go off on a whole nother rampage of like nothing that ever happened. I get that. And that was part of the charm even going into it, because you knew from the trailers, okay, they're taking this premise to a ridiculous extent. But then to turn it upside down and again continue to go deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of just me not ever once caring about the characters, even when the kids do coke, there's never real any ramifications other than they're real hyper and can climb a tree real fast. And then the mom who finds out later
the munchies.
That they're doing it, she just kind of has a slap on the wrist like, oh, mama bears always find out and they get in trouble. Wink, wink. It's like, he didn't get caught with a cigarette in his hand.
Yeah.
He did a freaking spoonful of Coke. Like, this is ridiculous that we're going to kind of equate the two on such a moral level. I just was like, how can this even be possible for people to digest and think it's even somewhat rationally in the same world that normal people live in? And I don't think we do. I don't think normal people who see this would walk away with such a feeling. They're going to look at it.
It has a 70-something with audiences on Rotten Tomatoes too. So.
Well, I would almost apply the same methodology to the people who got on there and gave it a positive review as we did with Ant-Man.
At this point, when I see things on the internet, I realize I'm on the internet. Like most good moral people don't spend a lot of time voicing their opinion. I think
that's why I got to put Twitter down sometimes. It's god awful.
I'm just saying, it's like
terrible.
Like the people who voice their opinion the most on the internet, well, I can't talk, are the ones who don't have anything better to do and usually are spouting some pretty terrible. Like the internet's a terrible place sometimes.
Well, yeah.
If you want to see the worst of humanity, just get online.
Just get on the internet. That's right.
And that's not telling anybody anything new.
It's the
You're
loud
on the internet. You're on the internet right now watching us.
It's the loud minority though, is what I would equate it to. Then I think
yeah,
the silent majority.
And part of the reason why, and I think we're going to talk about it a little bit with some of our headlines, especially when we get to the Disney discussion. It is the pop cultural zeitgeist of these bigger elitists who want to try to say, no, we're going to funnel and push the culture in this direction. And it's like not even caring. I mean, because look, there's something to be said for certain things. I mean, I think back when everybody was up in arms about Mortal Kombat and the violence, and then everybody wanted to blame the gaming industry on violent children. And it's funny because I'm like, but it was not only so grotesque and over the top, it was like it was intentional because it was the edgy, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be playing this. Yeah. Nobody's going to see this and be thinking, oh, I'm not supposed to be watching this. Yeah. No, they're watching it and laughing, and it's like, you think this is entertainment? Like, it's pretty sad and sick to think anything in this movie is entertaining. That's the takeaway of walking out of the film. You almost feel dirty. It's like watching a snuff film to a degree. It's like I'm not putting it equating it directly to that, but it would be the same feeling of walking into a snuff film, walking out and being like, I feel a little dirty watching that. Yeah. Like I shouldn't have rewarded it.
Oh, there's times in this film that I felt bad for laughing. I mean, there's a scene where the park ranger is on the gurney and gets flipped out of the ambulance and dragged across the concrete, and I'm just like listening to the people around me laugh, and I laugh too because it's one of those things where
it was
like
an awkward like
that, how did that just happen? Like it's like watching somebody fall down a flight of stairs on YouTube, but then her face gets dragged and her teeth are popping out of her skull and stuff on the concrete, and I'm just like, this is gross. Like, I mean, this is just too much.
Too much.
Halloween, where he steps on the dude's head. Yep. I'm like, that was just way too
Halloween
much.
Kills when he goes off the building, I think was even gorier.
And just completely splats on the ground. Yeah, I'm like, this is just too much. Like,
there's an essence of like, I mean, you get when filmmakers are trying to push the bar to show you something you've never seen. But we still have plenty of films that have been able to do that in a creative way without just
tasteful way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, to try to blend so much of the gore porn you already see in real life on social media from things like Twitter or even anywhere else, or even revenge porn when it comes to, sexuality. It's like there's so many ways. It's like going into a movie. you could still find people who would mostly agree that, yeah, when you walk in and you see a sex scene in a movie, it's not the same as porn, which is deliberately there for you to just, get your pleasure off. And so it's like, where is that dividing line between separating what is real cinema and filmmaking to what is, this piece of just garbage that shouldn't be consumed? And I really think Cocaine Bear, it was on the edge, and by the time I walked out, I was like, no, it was just garbage. It was just trash that I didn't need to waste my time with. I think I gave it 1 out of 4 stars. I was like, no, I'll never revisit this film again.
Nope.
Not worth my time. Alrighty, guys, I think that's going to do it for our discussion on Cocaine Bear. Not the delightful, goofy comedy we were, expecting to see.
Good job, Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah. Woo! There's another one for you. What other one did she do? She did another movie.
She's done a few, but her last two have been duds. Cocaine Bear, and then she did the last Charlie's Angels. That was also a dud.
I didn't even see that.
She did
I didn't see that.
She did the Pitch Perfect movies, which have gotten
those
were fine.
They're not bad. Yeah.
But after that she went downhill because Charlie's Angels and this have both been.
Okay, let's move on to our headlines. It's good to hear that again after a week off.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Yeah, what are we talking about now?
The big one.
Oh.
Yep.
Share the load.
Oh, nice.
This news dropped early last week, or was it late last week? I can't remember. It was somewhere in the middle of last week. But
I think it was after the show had already
It was,
aired,
okay, because I was a little... Actually, no. I think it was just before, because I thought about retaping the tape segment to at least bring it up and say, hey, we're going to have this news next week. Because obviously we're no short of Lord of the Rings fans on this show. So it was quite a big reveal that WB was like, hey, by the way, you're not just speculating. We're talking to Fran Walsh, Peter Jackson, Philippa Boyens, and we're maybe going to be making some new Lord of the Rings movies.
Did they say? I didn't actually read that they had talked to any of them.
Yeah,
they came out and said that discussions, nothing has been set in stone, but they are giving it its blessing in terms of what is being discussed, and they aren't sure exactly where Warner Brothers is going to go.
I would have a little bit more hope if I knew they were involved.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But the biggest thing I took away from all of this was Zaslav's statements, because I hated everything he had to say. Because it's everything I think is wrong with Hollywood right now. And I was trying to pull that up, the actual quotes. So here it is. So again, this is after the Warner Discovery merger. What's his first name? I know David Zaslav, who was the CEO of Discovery and is now the head of all of it since they've merged, was talking about how Warner Brothers has these untapped franchises that they're not getting into. So he goes, "We're going to have a real focus on franchises," Zaslav said during an earnings call late last year. "We haven't had a Superman movie in 13 years. We haven't done a Harry Potter movie in 15 years, if you're not counting Fantastic Beasts."
I don't know why he didn't. Yeah. I think that's
a part of the. Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, where are you going to? What else?
I get it's an earnings call, and I know why he's making these statements. But what it ticks me off is I'm like, how could you not include those in the Harry Potter franchise?
Yeah.
They're deliberately banking off the fact that you recognize Harry Potter.
Because what does he mean? Does that mean you'd have another movie with Harry Potter? Because that story's over. Anything they do with Harry Potter now would be. But anyways,
it's Harry.
Yeah. But anyways,
Ted Lasso with Harry Potter.
The DC movies and Harry Potter. The DC movies and Harry Potter movie provided a lot of the profits of Warner Brothers Motion Pictures over the last 25 years, which was true. So focus on the franchise. One of the big advantages that we have, House of the Dragons is an example of that, Game of Thrones, taking advantage of Sex and the City, Lord of the Rings. We still have the rights to do Lord of the Rings movies. What are the movies that have brands that are understood and loved everywhere in the world? And again, I hate everything he has to say there, because I'm so sick of franchises. Because
Same.
they keep running them into the ground. It's like, here's the thing. Yes, I understand franchises bring you money, but there's a reason why people why Marvel
short-term gain for long-term
Marvel,
pain.
Star Wars, Star Trek, Fast and the Furious. Thank God it's finally ending.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much you can only do before people are just sick of it. Especially when you're not focusing on quality. I mean, you can get away. Okay, Mission Impossible is a franchise that's long running, but they've actually produced quality films one after the other. So people are okay with
if you've noticed, a lot of those have come out long after the previous one.
Yeah.
They've not been like 1 year, 2
It's
years.
not-
It's
yeah.
been like
Yeah,
3
me and
years.
Amelia are watching all of them right now to catch up to the one that's coming out later this year, and I think we're on 3 right now, the J.J. Abrams one, which is my favorite. by
Kind
the
of
way.
revitalized it.
I love it, but they're like 5 or 6 years apart.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. They don't forget. It's really crazy because the first
the
one,
continuity's
the first
spot
one
on.
I can't remember who did the first one. John Woo did the second one. That's far the worst one.
The second one is the worst.
But
yeah.
in the third one, JJ picks up with it, but there's still elements of the second and the first that can be seen in the third.
The first one was a big name director. I just don't remember.
That's
the
what
first one was
trying
good.
to think of.
But yeah, there's still continuity between
Brian
the 3
De
of
Palma.
them,
Yeah, that was
even
it.
though they were all 3 different directors and they all 3 have very different feels to them in terms of in terms of not only the plot but just the way that they execute the plot. But it's still Mission Impossible. It still feels the same, and it's like I know they're going to carry that through. We've seen that with what was the last one? Was it Fallout? Was that the last one? The one with Henry Cavill?
I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
But I mean, that one felt just like the first movie. Like they do a great job. So like if you're gonna give me quality, I don't care about the quantity as long as there's quality.
But
there.
again, like we said, you're not pumping one out every 1 to 2 years, which I think is
you
also
give-
part of the quality.
give
yeah.
time to write and times to let things simmer. Sometimes I'm sure they're coming up with scripts and ideas for these films, and they're like, that just doesn't sit well with the other ones.
Right.
So let's
But another thing I would
shelf
say,
that and wait and.
the nature. I wasn't trying to interrupt.
No, I'm just saying I think they do need to space things out. Star Wars was one that we've always talked about. They need to wait a long time before they pull us back
Right.
into that world.
Trust me, there was nobody, I think, bigger than beating the drum of like wanting the next big Star Wars franchise than when Disney bought it.
Yeah.
And then realizing what dribble they poured out because they the way they see it is it's a ticking bomb. And if we don't get rid of it fast enough and put it out there, then nobody's going to want it
People
anymore.
lose interest.
And I'm like, the freaking original trilogy was out 20 years before the new trilogy, and fans were still eating
well,
it up.
Avatar is a perfect
went in
example
droves.
of that.
I agree. And I think also like Mission Impossible lends itself to being a larger franchise, just like James Bond, because when you have these spy films and the different stories that you could take, but something like Lord of the Rings, or even Star Wars, certain things I think don't lend themselves to this massive, huge universe. Lord of the Rings is based on a very specific set of novels, and how far you can go with the story outside of those novels, I think you can't, because you could tell tonally, just like with Amazon, what comes from Tolkien and what doesn't. There's never been
Rings of Power was
there's just
garbage.
there's not another
Such
author like
garbage.
J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, you can imitate, but I mean, there's a reason why he is considered the godfather of modern fantasy, and you can just tell when people are trying to imitate Tolkien's dialogue or writing, and it fails. I feel like Mission Impossible or even Bond, because another series that doesn't release one every 2 to 3 years. There's always a 4 to 5 year gap between Bond movies as well.
But I would also argue that Bond with Daniel Craig actually strayed from that
It did.
path quite a bit in terms of when it finally kind of took a dip in the middle. I was getting tired of not only the long wait periods with Daniel Craig at the helm, but also the fact that I felt like the movies weren't differentiated enough to make it seem like another new installment was warranted. It was just another bad guy he's facing, and even when they tried to open it up to I forget Blofeld and like his huge Spectra, and it was like the huge crime ring, and I'm like, it felt like, honestly, what I was getting with Kang, it didn't bolster itself enough to felt like it was warranted of a separate story to tell.
Part of that also had to do with some of the rights issues they had, because they didn't have the rights to Spectre initially, which is why they created Quantum of Solace as the organization. And then when they got the rights back to Spectre, they were like, oh, well, now we'll just fold Quantum of Solace into them. And I was like, yeah, I understand, because Spectre is from the books and is the most known from the older movies, why you wanted to include it. But at that point, it was kind of too late, I think, to try to fold it in like that.
To see where it started with Casino Royale and where it ended, it just didn't end on the high note I was hoping for, especially with as great a Bond as I thought Craig was. But ultimately, too, I think you get the fatigue set in when you do stick with. I mean, even with you could argue episode 7, 8, and 9 for Star Wars came out well after the prequel trilogy, and a lot of people were clamoring for it. But the problem there was the cohesive vision wasn't realized, and you had it broke down.
I think that's
from
a lot
the
of the
moment.
problem with Craig's Bond as well.
Exactly, and I would argue that the reason why you can at least have an Avatar 2, and we know this now, the proof is in the pudding, come out almost a decade later, is simply because James Cameron was still at the helm. It was his baby, it was his project. Even if you hated it or it was a terrible film, you couldn't argue that the original creator's hands weren't on it.
Well,
I think
it's
it's the
cohesive
same
and they fit
even with
together.
Tom Cruise being in Mission Impossible. He is one of those people that even when he signs up to do his own stunts, I also think there's a little bit of credibility he knows is lent to his name that he's not going to be part of something he's not proud of.
He doesn't. Yeah, I would say he doesn't make a movie that he doesn't have some type of creative say in. That's just part of how Tom Cruise makes movies, and it makes sense because he wants his product to be as good as he thinks as it should be. So I understand. Why people are willing to work with him on that, especially something like Mission Impossible. He's been in forever. You can look. Same thing goes with Vin Diesel and Fast and the Furious, only nowhere near as good.
Yeah,
but he has creative
Yes.
say in all of those movies.
Yeah.
Granted, he's not
He's a little.
He's not Tom Cruise apparently because the Mission
he's not that
Impossible movies are
creative.
good. But still, it's like I get it when you make the franchise, like there's not really that franchise almost
And
died
let's
without Vin
think
Diesel.
about it.
So I understand him being like, well, if I'm coming back, I have to have creative say.
Mission Impossible was not a film franchise. It started out as a singular
Show.
film. Then
Well,
they
it
came
was
out
a
with a
movie. It
number
was a TV
2.
series.
The show before that.
Oh, so I mean, even then it was like, okay, let's make a movie off this TV series. Then it gets popular. Even then, the John Woo film didn't come out till what, the late 90s? Was it the mid to
2000
late 90s?
something.
I thought it was like 2002.
One,
2001,
two.
I think.
Or
Yeah.
So, and then the other Mission Impossible 3 didn't come out until I know we were in high school.
Yeah.
It was like 06, 07.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
05 maybe.
You had these huge gaps for things that they wanted to revisit. But I think especially after you had the drop in quality with number 2, then you revisit with number 3. And yeah, J.J. Abrams will be the first to admit on this show, I think, to mock Jar Jar Abrams and what he's ruined in terms of picking up franchises and kind of running them into the ground and doing the mystery box. But it's like, at least he kind of left Mission Impossible 3 in a good note, but it could have ended the series. Then they come out with Ghost Protocol. And I remember when Ghost Protocol came out, I was like, really? We don't need to do another Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Then I saw it.
And it's great.
And I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Pretty good,
this
yeah.
is not bad. And I wasn't clamoring for another one, but by the time Rogue Nation comes out, I'm like, all right, I'll go check it. It's not bad.
So they've all been good, yeah.
They've all taken the time to kind of, steep on the, in the pot and get ready to boil. And then it's like they're taken out just in time when they're ready. And
The shortest
I think,
gap was 3 years, and that was between Rogue Nation and Fallout.
which makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, the first one was 96, the second one was 2000, the third one was 2006, then it was 2011, 2015, and then 2018, and then now 2023. So they've all been.
You can lend that to the fact that, I just found this out the other day, but Tom Cruise is 60 years old.
Yeah, it's
so I'm
insane,
like,
man.
at some point, he's got to say, if you guys want me to continue doing what I'm doing, we got to go a little quicker.
Well, these
But
last
time's
two
running
are
out.
supposed to be the
This is it.
This is the end, part 1 and 2.
This one, yeah. So which makes sense. I
But
think.
let's talk about too, because the other point of contention here is we do know with the Rings of Pooh and Amazon, they have the rights to the Second Age.
They don't have the rights to anything but the Third Age. Nobody has rights to
Wait.
anything but the Third Age.
But never
The
mind.
movie that takes place during the Second Age because there's stuff in the Lord of the Rings appendices about the Second Age. But that's why
how they're
that's
getting
why,
around
That's
it.
why everything's made up, and none of it actually follows because they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion or the.
So even with the rights to the
yeah.
Third Age, what else is there to tell? What new movies
well, they
could
would
we
have,
have from WB?
Warner Brothers has the exact same rights Amazon has, pretty much. So it's whatever they want to try to make up from the appendices and the books that they have.
They can't tell anything from the Second Age?
They can
Except
as
for
long
what's in
as
the appendices?
they can do whatever they want. It's just they
Because
can't
I know
follow.
the Silmaril is
That's
primarily
the first and
Second Age.
There's not much on the Second Age. It's primarily the First Age.
I thought because the Second Age is when the rings are created, right?
Yeah, but there's not very much written about the Second Age at all. Like Tolkien never wrote a whole lot about the Second Age.
That's why it's kind of, I guess they can.
That's why that's the
lend their
playground they're
creative
trying
juices.
to. Yeah. Because there's not, they don't have the rights, and then because there's not a lot written, they're just like, well, we can just kind of make up whatever, I guess. I don't know. That's my thing, is because I know there's been talked about like Aragorn movie about what he was doing, like when he tracked down Gollum, and before Lord of the Rings, there's talks about. I'm trying to think of another spinoff they're talking about doing, and I'm just like, there's reasons that these aren't already stories, is because you don't really need to know every minute detail about every character and what they were doing before the main events. And I don't know where we go with this that's high quality. We don't need to see a movie about what Frodo was doing in the Shire before the Lord of the Rings.
No,
we don't need to see. Even
hell, we don't even need to see Sam after he gets back raising his family.
People are like, well, they can make a movie about the wizards. That'd be cool. It's like, yeah, except that they all split up and did their own thing throughout most of this.
You don't know anything of what happened.
That's what I'm saying. And anything you do, it's going to be made up. And it's like, yeah, that does. And people are like, well, so it's like, okay, yeah, maybe they can make a quality movie out of just something they're making up, but I highly doubt it, because so far nobody has. It's like, I'm not going to put my faith into something that I've not seen happen before.
Well, we already know that is it Christopher Tolkien, the only one that's left his grandson?
Christopher was J.R.R.'s son, and he's now passed.
Who's the
that's actually why a lot of this is happening, is because now that he's passed, the estate has they sold to that one group that Warner Brothers is working with that we reported on.
Yeah.
It's an entertainment group. But the
now
weird
have
thing
is
Christopher
Tolkien didn't even like the Peter Jackson
Christopher
films.
Tolkien
he doesn't like anything.
He was a purist, and he never wanted any of them turned into movies. He didn't think it could be done, and he hated even Peter Jackson's movies.
He was a stickler.
Yeah, he was. I don't.
He was. He had a stick up his butt. And
I
he wasn't
appreciate
letting it go.
greatly all the things Christopher Tolkien did for the estate, because that's where we got, like, the Silmarillion wouldn't have been released without him. A lot of some of the other unfinished books wouldn't have been released without him, and he was definitely the expert on his father. But as far as some things went, I think he was too close to the material, because he believed it, like it was almost
his father's.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where he didn't think anybody could do it justice, and I get that. He was a little bit too much of a stickler, like you said, but at the same time, I would prefer that than
what Amazon's doing.
than what we have now, where they're just like, well, you can just do whatever you want.
So let me ask you this: so is there no chance that the estate would ever sell the rights to the Silmaril?
Maybe, with Christopher Tolkien now gone, and his children head of the states, and I don't know their names. I'd have to look. It's possible, I guess, but if they're in the same line of thinking like him and J.R.R. Tolkien, then maybe, because Tolkien originally sold the movie rights back in the 60s, but he also didn't believe that
the Beatles were going to do it.
Well, he didn't believe the movie could be made either, but he still sold, like, he wasn't as much of a stickler as his own son. He just didn't believe it was possible, but he went ahead and said, yeah, try. So it's one of those things where if they in that line of thinking of, well, these are just unfilmable, we're not going to sell it. I don't know. I don't really, at this point, why they're much more protective of the Silmarillion than they would be Lord of the Rings, other than...
That's what I don't understand.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that the Silmarillion was never fully completed by Tolkien. It was only released after he passed, and Christopher Tolkien cleaned it up and then added annotations about, this is what I think my father wanted, but there's no, like, 100% on anything. So I guess maybe because there isn't a definitive of this is what Tolkien had an idea for this story, they don't want to, but...
So, ultimately, in the discussion, are we looking forward to it or not looking forward to new Lord of the Rings movies?
I've not seen anything since Peter Jackson's, even The Hobbit, and I know he did those movies. I know there was crunch. He was, he was being pressured. Yeah, and it shows in those films. Right. But even they are more on par with what he created with the original trilogy than what Amazon is putting out.
I told you all, I watched it recently with my nieces and nephews at my parents' house, and I came in on Desolation. They had already watched which I had seen the original a few times. I actually haven't.
I like the Hobbit movies. Not nowhere near as much as Lord of the Rings.
I hadn't seen the Desolation of Smaug or the Battle of the Five Armies since theaters. So it was actually my second time viewing it, and it's like, no, it's not Lord of the Rings. It's not Lord of the Rings caliber, not that quality. However, it's funny, and I don't think it was intentional. It was purely accidental. If you do watch those before you see Lord of the Rings, they're not bad movies. They're not great, but they're not terrible, especially with the crap we get today.
I think, yeah.
And if you then follow that up with the masterpiece that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think you're going to just be pleased from The Hobbit all the way to Return of the King.
I agree.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the original Hobbit novel was a children's book. So tonally, I think that makes sense too. My only problem with the movies is they just tried to overbloat them. They should have never tried to turn that small children's novel into a massive trilogy.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm looking forward to, Warner Brothers, at this point, which was already in development even before Amazon series, was the War of the Rohirrim animated thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because that one, Philippa Boyens is involved, along with some of the original people from the original trilogy. So I'm like, okay, maybe that'll turn out. And because it is kind of a side story about the War of Helm Hammerhand, which Helm's Deep is named after, I was like, that's kind of cool because it's not nothing too in depth or crazy. It's just his story in an animated film that takes place years before Lord of the Rings. That one I have some hope for. And maybe if they come up with creative ideas like that with these movies, I can get behind some of them. Everything that Zavslav's saying about franchises, and the ideas they've bandied about giving solo films to Aragorn, Gandalf, and all these characters. I'm like, no,
here's the thing.
That's dumb.
I agree with your point on that, but I will say if Zaslav is going to be the brunt force behind all of these decisions, saying we just need this to again, quantity over quality to make money. I'd rather, if he's going to go down that path and say, well, let's go ahead and bring Peter Jackson and Philippa Boyens and them in. It's like, okay, they haven't steered me wrong to the point of like complete abandonment. Like I said, we just said The Hobbit's not great, but it's not terrible. And they're not memorable like Lord of the Rings.
If they give Peter Jackson the time to develop it instead of just throwing him into the battlefield like they did with The Hobbit, I think it might be okay.
If we're going to get films regardless, I'd rather they be at the helm than just the crap we got with Rings of Power.
Rings of Power, he offered to come in.
And they ghosted him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, honestly, and I mean, this may not even be the most popular opinion, but at this point, looking at Star Wars, I kind of wish George Lucas was still involved. Maybe he shouldn't direct, but I honestly feel like, the scripts...
After 7, 8, 9?
Because he had scripts written that he gave to Disney, and they didn't use his story ideas. And I'm like, honestly, I feel like maybe if you had taken his story ideas and gave it to a better director, what we would have gotten would have felt more in line with Star Wars.
It's funny,
but instead they were just like, we don't need you.
Everybody talks about remakes, and it's like, Star Wars needs to die down, but I'd much rather them remake 7, 8, and 9 and completely wipe those aside and say they never happened.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not. No. But I can dream.
Yeah.
Or make like an awesome and penultimate 10, episode 10, and I
don't believe this at all because they're still making money off it for right now. But I'd even seen rumors about Disney even considering selling Star Wars because they no longer know what to do with it. And while I don't think they're at that point right now, I could see that if they keep running in the ground. I mean,
and that's what just pisses me off. They can't sell it. It's inundated into their parks.
Yeah, that's
they
what
have
I was
it. They have it on everything.
Built everything around it.
Hotels,
everything.
And not to mention, they made their money back off episode 7.
Yeah.
They didn't need anything else.
They're not hurting for money right now like that, so I don't see it happening. But I mean,
I just don't see that ever being plausible. It's like they're not going to get rid of that IP. They're just going to let it rest. And this is what they should have done in the first place. And this is kind of bringing us into our second headline here, which I do want to talk about. Because let's face it. Oh, sorry, not Alec Baldwin not pleading guilty. I forgot. I got it mixed up here. There it is. Disney's doubling down on just being a joke.
I have things to say about that.
Because here's the thing. The problem is they're when it comes to even their franchises, they're too far out of the gate to be like, we got to get it now. We just got to get it out there and let people consume. And then when they do finally, find out they're not getting the return on their investment because they are just shoveling out crap, they're not quick to call themselves out. They just want to sit there and say, well, these are the primary factors why we think it failed, and then they just
blame the
beat
audience
around
for
the
being
bush.
too. I mean, he doesn't call the audience stupid, but at this point, it's like, well, we didn't have any character. Like he's talking about Lightyear.
Yeah,
we didn't have any characters like Woody and Mr. Potato Head and Rex, so fans didn't care. It's like, no. Now you're insulting audiences for saying that because we didn't eat the dribble you were trying to spoon feed us, that apparently we just we were just picky or stupid. No, you were shelling out crap and we decided we didn't want it.
Well, they come up with all these excuses, and the way that they put it is that we asked too much of the audience.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
does make it sound like
They think we're
we
stupid.
didn't realize. Yeah, we didn't realize how dumb you were.
Yeah.
And so we can't.
You couldn't accept that this Lightyear wasn't voiced by Alan, even though it's a different character. It's like, no, we understood
I
that.
had no
it was
problem.
Just stupid.
Yeah, I actually tweeted out about it after I read it, and I was just like, I had no problem with the concept of a Lightyear spinoff. I had no problem with him being a younger character. I had no problem with Chris Evans voicing him. I had the problem with you shoveling a gay character in an on-screen kiss in an animated movie that I don't want my children to see.
That's right.
We didn't go see it, and we haven't watched it since it's been on streaming. So that's what you asked too much of me.
And
was
the fact that they didn't even bring that up proves to
No.
you they can't, because they know that's going to put a target on their back by the woke crusaders.
Yep.
And they know they've gone woke, and they've doubled down on it time and time again by not only putting these things in there, they even removed it from the film and put it back in there because of the don't say gay bill in Florida, just to directly spite Ron DeSantis and the conservative movement. And yet at the same time, they're going to be that cheeky about it, and then only months and months later after it flopped say, well, we just didn't think people wanted to see Buzz Lightyear that way.
I think what really had me kind of down too, like, just, I don't want to say upset. I wasn't upset by it, but it's just something that really chafed me, I guess the wrong way, is the fact, the fact that that it was Pete Docter saying this too, because that's a man who I did have a lot of great respect for when he was under John Lasseter. I mean, he made some of the
showing his true colors.
He has made some of the best Pixar films. He made Up. He made Inside Out. And it's sad to see this hugely creative, talented man who, as a writer and director, made these emotional powerhouse films that are children's film but still affect adults. And it's one of those things that's like, yeah, that creativity is gone, or you've sacrificed it for the sake of this agenda that you're now pushing, because it's no longer focused on, well, how can we tell this emotional story about a man who lost his wife and is now elderly and alone, or how do we tell this emotional story about a prepubescent girl and her emotions? It's like they were actually universal human stories that people can relate to, and now it's no longer that.
It's garbage.
Now it's no longer that. It's just, well, how do we earn brownie points in Hollywood by pushing all of the right buttons?
We know that the inmates are running the asylum at Disney. We do. We do. They've not only come out on Zoom
well,
meetings.
they ousted anybody who was actually worthwhile. So
right, and that's the thing. And they've all, funny enough, actually had accusations of things that were never proven, just because of the hashtag.
John Lasseter
Me Too.
hugged some people. Apparently, that's. I guess
so.
Get you shouldn't. You probably keep your hands to yourself. But was it really that serious that you couldn't take him aside and be like, "Hey, you're being too friendly. Stop it."
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That was never the point. The point was always to oust him anyway. And ultimately, the fact is he was probably part of the old guard. He was probably a sticker for certain traditional values that they saw outdated. You had the woke brigade come in. Look, and you got to go with the forefront here. Bob Chapek was fired in the middle of the night on a Sunday, and yet Bob Iger is ushered back in to try to save the day. He was the one that brought about this crap. He's the one that started all this. Whether he wanted Chapek at the helm or not, this all happened under Iger's watch. He's not innocent here.
Yeah,
the decline of Disney in the woke culture
before Chapek,
started with Iger. And he was trying to go along to get along, to stay up to date on what the cultural zeitgeist was at the time, and it's been this woke crap for the last 4 or 5 years, and Disney could have shied away from it. They could have stuck their toe in a different end of the pool and said, no, we're not going to go down there. We're not going to tread in that water. But no, they decided to go knee deep into it and say, we're going all in. We're diving in on it. And the problem is now you have the repercussions of people who did consume your content flat out say, no, I'm done. I'm not watching it. And they're feeling the pain. And instead of actually, this is the problem with the woke culture that we live in right now. They don't have the ability to actually fess up and say, we know what the problem is. They want to try to, what they're going to start doing is they're going to try to pull like a little slight Top Gun of, hey, wink, wink. This one, it's got all the woke stuff in it, and it'll be light. And eventually you're either going to see it completely erode, or you're going to have to see what you're seeing from Pete Docter and what Disney's continued to do, even with the Tinkerbell release today, I think it was, that they brought out for the Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And it has a black Tinkerbell. Peter Pan is Asian. Is that right?
He's South Asian.
He's South
yeah.
Who cares? He's
Indian
Asian.
Pakistan,
And then you have, who else is is another
There's
diverse...
girls in the
girls in the Lost
Yeah,
Boys.
girls in the
But
Lost
of
Boys.
course,
Yeah.
as you pointed out in our text, but the bad guys are cis white males.
Yeah.
We could keep them the same.
All the pirates are white, but no.
It's
The trailer itself, when they introduced the Lost Boys, is like, "Oh, we're the Lost Boys." Wendy's like, "But some of you are girls," and one of the girls says, "So," and I'm like, "Well, of course, that's
Of
all that needs to be
course.
said
Yeah.
about
That's it. That's it.
It's like because girls, just like the
It
Lord
is
of the
not
Flies,
a mystery.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery anymore where these companies are headed. And they don't care. They're throwing it in your face, and they don't give a damn. Because this is the hill they want to die on. So in that regard, if you're not going to move away from it, you're going to double down on it and pretend like it's not happening, that you're actually losing value and you're causing a war with your main customer base, that's fine. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. It won't turn up better the next day. It's going to continue taking parents to rally together and families coming together saying, I mean, like I said, yes, I have a Disney Plus subscription that I share with all my family. I buy it mainly because there is back catalog of content. And that's the laurels that they're resting on. That's what pisses me off. If they were really truthful and honest, just like you could even claim about Netflix, it's like, let's bring out your streaming data. Let's actually see what are some
what
of the
people
top
watching.
things
Yeah.
that people are watching. Because I can guarantee you it's none of the woke new bull crap, that Proud Family shit that they launched, which is just nothing but freaking
I've just seen clips
CRT
of that. and just,
garbage.
like dropped my jaw. I was like, "Are you serious?"
And I think what is so radically insane is it's like they literally are just it's like a facade. I mean, I feel like I'm living in a nightmare. You literally have this facade of a friendly, family friendly cartoon as the exterior, but when you do a deep dive and you listen to it, it's like this is just like woke propaganda, like to the highest degree. It's insane, and so I don't see Disney course correcting anytime soon.
Oh no.
Even with Iger wanting to play things quiet, wanting to try to revert back to, well, let's just not ruffle too many feathers. No, I think you've
How many million
cooked your
subscribers
goose.
did they just lose? They just announced a week ago.
Yeah,
how
we
many,
talked about it
was
on the show.
Several million.
But the thing is, that was over.
subscribers.
But the problem was, again, that was overseas. And as me and Brandon, I think you weren't. You weren't on that episode. And as me and Brandon were talking about, I think a lot of that is the reason they're not losing domestic subscribers like they are overseas is because of I think the classics that people are still holding on to. Because I think the newer movies no one's showing up to those. Nobody's paying for those.
Nope.
I think a lot of Disney Plus subscriptions in America, sadly, until people are willing to not give Disney their money because they don't want to lose access to all those classics because that's what they want to raise their kids up on. I mean, I'd gladly show, if I had children or even my nieces and nephews, anything, early 2000s. I mean, everything from the Disney Renaissance and before. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad, but Disney's going to keep going down this path. They're doubling down on stupid, and it's like, all right, you're going to have to pay
Disney
for it.
overall is one of those
FAFO.
They say too big to fail, and yeah, that's. It's not that I think Disney can't fail,
Sears
but it's going to
one day
take a
was
long.
too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's not that I think Disney can't ever fail, but right now I think they are too big to fail. Like immediate, it's going to take a long time, and people turning away.
And I don't think it's going. Like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. But I also don't think that they can go down that road for too long. I think the moment the backlash,
Their stocks have not. They've been in a overall steady decline for several years. Now I know people will point like quarter to quarter. Well, look, it raised this many. It's like, look, they raised this many points this quarter. It's like, okay, but the last 3 years they've dropped. It's
Steadily,
like just because you raise a little bit but then continue to drop, it's not a good. They don't want that.
well, and they're going to chalk that up to just bad economy overall and just bad. And I'm like, okay,
It started
okay.
before.
But again,
it started before COVID though.
keep
but
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
Keep
they don't
drinking the
really
Kool-Aid.
believe that.
No.
They can use that as excuses and say that, but they don't believe it, or they wouldn't have fired their CEO.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's a lot of winking going on behind the scenes. It's a lot of, we got to save face. Because again, we all know in this day and age, the moment you upset the woke bear, it's like cocaine bear. It's going to come mauling.
Kills everybody.
It kills everybody. But it's like the moment you try to, not upset the apple cart and you appease them in their little ways, you can only get to the point where eventually you have enough of a force, a cultural force that pushes back, that then gives them the flat out reason to be like, we have to reject this or we're going to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they just haven't lost enough yet. So keep the pressure on them. They're going to have to turn away soon. You have to. That's the only way we can fight back is with the pocketbook. All right, let's talk about the That's probably going to be our last headline we're going to talk about tonight. But yeah, Alec Baldwin caught a little bit of a break this past week. And also he's pleading not guilty.
I hate to say caught a break because reading it and realizing that they dropped a charge for a law that didn't exist when this happened, I'm like, okay, well, that's just... No matter,
it was trying to be retroactively applied.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like the article says, that even if it hadn't been dropped now, if they had gone to court with it, the judge would have ended up dropping it because, again, it wasn't a law when he killed Helena Hutchins.
Yeah.
And I forget what it even is. It has to do with something with handling the gun. But because you can't charge somebody for committing a crime that wasn't something that wasn't illegal
earlier. Yeah.
So I totally get that. But not only did he plead not guilty, which of course he did because he's a garbage human being, but I did share today that some of the other crew members from the film are now pressing charges based on damages they've sustained to rather hearing or some of its PTSD, just different things that happen because of the gun going off. And
which I ain't gonna lie, in most cases I'd roll my eyes.
I kind of roll my eyes at this too, but
it's Alec Baldwin. So I don't care.
Well, you don't think on the set of that movie that there's people that completely agree that he should be in prison?
Oh, they say
absolutely.
They're doing what they can. They see that he's probably going to get off not scot-free, but pretty lenient, and they're doing what they can to just throw more at him.
So these people who are pressing charges now, the article I sent you all, they stated in the article that, one, there were several reports about people mishandling and using live ammunition. Can't talk. Yep. On set, and him as the producer ignored it. They said he did not all the reports are saying that he was told the gun was cold, that it was good to go. They said he did not ask. No one told him it was cold. He just picked it up and started playing with it and dry firing it prepare for his scene.
That's damning.
Everything they're saying is the exact opposite of what he said. They said that he never checked the gun. Even after reports of people playing with live ammunition on set, he never checked to make sure the gun was loaded with blanks, because you can visibly tell the difference between a blank and a live round. Yeah. What they're saying, and granted, maybe it's them just trying to make a case, but I kind of don't believe that based on how everything's happened so far.
Well, and I was going to say, they could be cooperating and trying to pull one over on him, or to again, in the same vein, seek justice for Helena Hutchins. But also, I think, too, that, it was no secret that even after all of this broke over a year ago, it's insane how long it's been. It's literally been a year and a half at this point. But even when it happened, there was already complaints because of the fact that the safety on set were taking shortcuts. They said they only had 21 days to film the whole movie, that they were really taking shortcuts in areas they shouldn't have been, that Alec Baldwin was fully compliant with taking these shortcuts and fully complicit in it. So it's like, you gotta, again, all of it still points back to, I believe, that the parties that are receiving, or at least looking to be handed the harshest punishment, which would be Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, I think, I understand retroactively you can't apply a law, to charges today that weren't there or non-existent.
But he deserves to be charged to the full extent.
The manslaughter charges absolutely deserve to stick. Yeah. There's no way, shape, or form it's been proven by federal agents you couldn't hold a revolver and not pull the trigger if it had fired. It didn't fire on its own. And it's not like a regular semi-automatic pistol.
And you can't fire it by pulling the hammer back and letting go either.
No. Well, it said in this, because it says, Halls, which is the assistant director, didn't examine the rifle before handing it to Baldwin. He didn't request anyone examine or verify that it was safe. He didn't ask anyone to check the ammunition. And then it does say that despite all this knowledge, he accepted the revolver as a cold gun, and then was practicing pulling the trigger back with his finger on the hammer back with his finger on the trigger, which absolutely, if his finger, if his finger's already on the trigger when he pulls it back and lets go, it's going to fire.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Well, just with his right hand, Baldwin repeatedly drew the revolver across his body from his left shoulder holster and pointed it in the direction of the crew members. And it said, Baldwin cocked the hammer of the revolver with the trigger pulled and fired it. So they're saying he already had the trigger pulled when he cocked the hammer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Look, it's all going to come out in court. Obviously,
even though he said his finger never. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And look, again, there's no, even before this incident happened, there's no question that Alec Baldwin was a piece of trash anyway.
Yeah.
He was just a garbage human being who was an elitist in his own right and freaking a Hollywood asshole. But I will say I can only hope that even while I was hoping for a long prison sentence, that he at least gets the harshest punishment he can. No. Obviously, it's not a murder charge. I don't think he maliciously tried to kill Helena Hutchins.
No, but I'm
not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Extraordinarily negligent and
absolutely.
irresponsible
Completely.
and deserves,
And yes, I do believe and I hope that her death haunts him for the rest of his life. And he absolutely, the amount of time he will spend for recklessly ending her life won't be, I think, the justice
The
that
max
truly
is 18
deserves.
months, so it's like, okay, are you saying that 18
Yeah, but they were saying that with this other charge, had it been
It
a
would've
law
been
at
up
the
to 5
time, it could have
years.
been up to 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you could say he dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah.
He was trying. He did
Yeah.
it. That was
Yeah.
great. That was good.
All I was
waiting.
going to say, though, is as much as he's fighting it, I just feel like he's, at this point, you're basically saying that 18 months of your life isn't worth the fact
right,
that
the
she
rest
doesn't
of hers.
Yeah, she doesn't
Yeah.
have a life at all.
Oh,
it's
and,
like, I think
and,
that's
and,
fair
and they're,
that you give
they're
up 18
resuming.
months
They're
of your
going to start
life.
resuming filming.
Yeah.
and he's still.
Yeah.
He's still.
Oh,
But he's
Okay.
going to finish the
Well,
movie in
and-
honor
Yeah.
of her. That's
Well,
for
and
her.
I found it funny too that even though he settled the lawsuit, I think it was, I can't remember if it was the civil or the criminal, with her family or with her husband, her late her husband.
parents and that family are now
but
pressing
they're
charges.
now coming back to the table saying no, we think that this is not fair.
Yeah.
And after the DA brought out these charges, they're back on the line of
Yep.
saying no. And look, it ultimately comes down to Alec Baldwin himself. Yes, not taking up the being the man here and stepping up and saying, yeah, I did wrong and I deserve to do the time. I did the crime, I deserve the time. And it's like him, I mean, even with his lawyers, the way they mocked the DA for even putting the charge on there. They were like, we think she's in over her head. She's out of her element.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're saying everything that just seems sleazy and slime ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't care who you're defending. A person's life was lost due to the negligence of this person. Whether you're defending that or not and saying it has nothing to do with him, it's like have the respect and the decency to at least argue in a background manner and not put that out there as an actual statement against the DA pressing the charges. It's like, come on, it's like have a little bit of class, but they don't. It's Alec Baldwin and his lawyers. That's what I expect. All right, guys, let's move on to our unique weekly segment, which is story time.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time. That's right. Telling our stories.
Is a story.
The never-ending story.
That's not where I was going.
They're remaking that too.
They better not.
No.
I said something about that. Like
No,
weeks-
Oh,
you
no,
sent
that's-
the never-ending story like 2 or no.
No, that was that
a
Disney. They're not. Yeah, they're not
Yeah,
remaking that.
that's not remake.
They don't have the rights to it. Yeah.
It was a fake.
It was a
poster.
fake poster. Yeah.
It was
Was
like
it?
the
Yeah.
Back to the Future remake.
Oh, okay.
Or the
Yeah.
4.
I hope so.
Marty's.
Yeah.
What is it? Marty's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disney doesn't have the rights to Never-Ending Story.
I didn't say it was Disney.
Oh, that's what the poster said.
The
Oh,
poster
did it?
had
Yeah,
Disney's
it had
logo.
Disney
Oh, okay.
over it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our storytime segment, which happens to be we were going to go with another topic, but we talked it to death over next door.
Yeah.
About pooping.
Yeah.
We're going to talk
We could
about
do that another day, maybe.
Yeah, when we've kind of let it die down a little
Yeah.
bit.
We've let
We need to talk about sleeping
poop
because it's
smell.
10:20,
Yep.
and
we're
I need to
getting
do
there.
that soon
The best way to sleep. Let's talk about it.
in a bed.
That's true, but how do you sleep best in your bed?
Mm.
Actually, you kind of sat over there maybe on a couch.
I sleep pretty good on the couch.
Yeah.
I don't sleep my best on a couch.
Really?
Yeah.
I sleep my
You gotta be
best.
in a
The
bed.
problem is when I get up, my back doesn't think.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
didn't sleep your best if your back hurts.
I didn't.
I don't wake my best. But
Right. There you go.
I
There you
sleep
go.
all the way through the night.
Exactly.
Like a rock.
I sleep
But
great
then I
on
wake
the
up
couch.
sore.
But see,
Yep.
I don't. I could sleep like a rock through the night, almost anywhere, or anything. But how I feel in the morning is kind of whether
That's
I feel
part
like I've
of
had
it.
a good. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if I wake up and feel like crap, I know I didn't have a good night's sleep.
That's how you rank
It's
it.
like, I mean, even if I didn't wake up, it's like, okay, I
If
feel
I
like
wake
crap.
up and my pants are sticky, I had a good night's sleep.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's.
Or somebody around me did. I don't know.
I typically.
I don't know who it was,
Whoa.
but thank you.
No, I have a.
That was Dan Aykroyd's ghost.
I have. Yes.
His ghost. Not
Yeah.
he doesn't own the ghost,
No,
but his
yeah.
actual. It was him.
Dan Aykroyd's a slave ghost.
I
owner.
have slept a lot better with the purchase of My Pillow.
Nice.
I do have
I
a
thought
My
about getting
Pillow,
one.
and I sleep very well with that thing. But I told you guys over next door, like my wife and I, we have separate comforters.
Yeah.
So they match and everything, but it's like we just can't agree on bed space, and we can't agree on who gets
You don't want
how
someone
much
stealing,
blanket.
yeah, the blanket
Yeah,
from you.
I move around way too much in the middle of the night. It takes me a good 30 to 45 minutes to fall asleep, and I toss and turn a lot. If I was spooning or something like that, I could not lay still like that at all. So we have a king size bed, and there's a demilitarized zone in the middle, and that's usually where Lando finds his spot in there. But yeah, I sleep like a mummy with my comforter like tucked under my feet all the way around me.
Sleep with it extremely cold.
I do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, but Sean's is like, I think absurdly cold.
No,
Our windows are open even in the winter.
Yeah, mine
usually
is.
at
I
night.
don't think Sean is any more absurd than me because
No,
like
I
I've
see
had
my breath in the morning when we wake up.
I've had my
Yeah.
windows open
What?
this
Yeah.
week. Yeah, I've had my windows open this week.
This week is not that bad.
Last week too.
Yeah.
Okay, even when it's like 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Well, 40
Yeah, well,
degrees.
it's
is
been
insane.
in the
I think
in the
that's
30s,
insane.
and we've
Yeah.
had the windows open.
I crack my
Yeah.
window open if it's
No.
40 degrees
Yeah,
out.
y'all are nuts.
If it
yeah.
gets, I mean, it doesn't.
Turn on the fan.
That
That's
doesn't.
not-
that
all
just
it is
moves
blows
the
warm air around.
Yeah, it moves warm air around.
It doesn't make it any colder.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I only
We love
sleep
it
under
cold.
one comforter. We talked about using sheets and stuff. I have a sheet. It usually ends up at the foot of the bed. The only time I use the sheet is during the winter because sometimes I like to make it extremely cold, and then I'll put like 3 or 4 layers of blankets
and then
there.
take them off as you get warm.
Yeah,
That's what we do.
Well, because you can always do stuff to get warmer, but it's hard. Like as Jacob always says, there's only so many clothes you can take off when you get hot before you go to jail. So it's easier to put things on to stay warm, and I love it cold at night when I'm sleeping.
That's why and I know I'm opposite of you all on this, but that's why I like sleeping under the sheets. Like I have my comforter and then I have the sheet, but the sheet is cool and keeps me nice and cold. And if you shift to a different part or move your legs, it's like it's cold there. It's kind of chilly, and it stays like that throughout the
See,
night.
the sheet don't keep me cold. It's just this thin thing that serves no purpose to me.
Well, then that's the thing. Is if I get hot during the night, then I throw the top part of the comforter off, and then I have the sheet, and the sheet is just a thin layer. I still have to be covered with something. I don't like to be completely exposed.
I gotta have cushion.
Yeah,
I gotta have.
oh, yeah,
something.
that too.
it's
I gotta
not so
have-
much
it's gotta be
cushion.
thick.
It's just the way, like the sheet's just too thin and light. Like
Yeah.
that's like it's basically it's like
Sleeping
I'm
with nothing, yeah.
and I don't like it. Like
See,
I have to have something over me.
See, I'm opposite.
but I don't want to be hot.
I'm in the boat of it's light, but I have to have it, and if I don't have it and there is nothing, I can definitely tell.
Yeah.
I
Do
can
you have a
tell there's
huggy
nothing.
pillow? You mentioned.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have it, yeah.
I have like
I have, so basically the way I told you all, I have a pillow in between my knees. I have a pillow on my right side, and then I have a pillow on my left side. I like to be kind of encased. Now, sometimes I don't have the pillow on my left side because my dog now, she sleeps on that side. She's kind of down there.
Dude, you need
So-
a pregnant woman pillow. Have you ever seen?
I've
one
heard
of
of these, and the thing is, they're like a body pillow.
We had one.
and the thing is that's what I like is I toss and turn in the middle of the night. So whether I'm on my right side or my left side, I don't like laying with my arms completely collapsed. I have to be like cradling
Yeah.
something so that
That's
like
what
my
you need.
airways open and
It's a huge horseshoe-shaped size pillow,
oh yeah,
and it
This
goes like
sounds
your
amazing.
head goes on it, and then there's a pillow full body length on both sides of you, so you can, whichever side you turn on, you can put that between your knees. You
Oh,
can
dude.
hold your arm around it.
I'm
and-
sold.
Oh yeah,
I may look into.
I don't-
this,
You
should get
seriously.
one.
I
may
have
invest in
several
this.
pillows, but my dogs use most of them. I just kind of lay my head on one or two, and
I think we
that's
got
about
rid
the
of
end it.
ours, or I'd give it to you. But
Your dogs?
no, dude, the pillow.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Amelia had one of those for like when
Yes.
she was pregnant.
Yeah, with
No
both
way.
kids. Yeah.
Why would you get rid of it
So
just
it's
because
got
you're not pregnant?
it's got that
man?
that pregnant woman smell on it.
I mean, well,
I mean, I don't think she would mind.
I hope not. I would just tell her I'm cradling it for the comfort.
Right.
It's just the comfort.
comfort.
But no, I mean, like I like it cold. I just don't like it friggin' ice cold.
Yeah, we like it cold.
I like-
and,
yeah,
and it's
see my breath.
my room kind of stays cold throughout the day because, like I said over there, it's like I leave all the doors shut throughout the day because if she does get out of the kitchen, I don't want her roaming around the house.
Yeah.
And by default, it's like just all of the cold air that pumps through, in the vents. It's like it cools off the room.
The kids don't like it cold, so we'll have like the heat on like a lower setting so that their room is comfortable enough for them.
Plus they're
but then we
upstairs,
shut
so
our
it helps
door
the heat rise
and we
in.
have the windows open, so our room is like an ice box.
There you go.
And the rest of the house is warm.
Yeah.
And it's awesome when you get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and it's like, oh my God, it's so
Yes.
cold, and
Now-
you run and you pee and then you jump back in bed.
Yes.
Your blankets are
Now, I
still
do
warm.
love that.
Oh my God.
Now that is the
Get in the
best
bed
feeling.
with my dogs because
Yeah,
Luke gets
I
under
agree.
he gets under the blankets and
his
he keeps it
body
warm.
heat, yeah.
He keeps
Yep.
it warm under there. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I
love
will
it.
say that is one of the best feelings. Is even if you got to pee or something, you get out and then you run back to bed real quick and jump in. It's like, whew, that's all warm.
Yep.
Go right back to sleep. Only for the alarm to wake you up.
10 minutes later.
Sucks.
Yep.
I'm telling you. How do y'all sleep out there? Come on, tell us. Let us know. We want to know because we want to sleep with you.
Let us know.
That means like while you're listening to the
Yeah.
Red Moon podcast,
Get in
like
bed.
you're trying to go to bed.
It's 10:30. Get in bed and listen to us.
That's right. Listen,
Just go to bed an hour early and start at 9 and
You can turn on that timer on your podcast. You just tune into us, and hey, we'll put you to sleep.
yeah, for sure.
As always, you can email us. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. The old-fashioned way of getting in touch with us. Email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. I don't say it as well.
Zach
as Keith.
slept well last night. I don't know
he
who
did?
he is, but he slept well.
Well, I'm glad.
He did?
He says, "What an interesting stream I've stumbled upon." Well, we're glad. We're glad
he
you
wants us-
stumbled.
yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
he's suffering
Try
from
not
insomnia.
to trip over us.
Yeah.
Well,
And check us
now-
out next week,
That's
Tuesday
right.
nights at 9.
We talk about more than just sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't know where in the show
talk
he
about
stumbled
movies.
upon.
Talk about
But
movies.
at the end of the show gets a little weird.
But if you want to know a little bit more, Zach, just email us.
There you go.
Where?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Just beautiful.
I like
love it.
Every
I
single
love it.
time. Just awesome.
I hadn't done that. I hadn't done that one yet.
You hadn't.
It rarely works.
You
but
always
it's
got to
working
have that
tonight.
one on there. But that's right there at the bottom of your screen, all of our social media accounts. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweets, Red Moon Picks, and of course, just search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube. Even on Rumble, subscribe there. We appreciate all the love and tuning in. Like Sean said, every Tuesday at 9 p.m., our review for next week is actually going to be Creed 3.
Yeah.
Creed 3.
And
Women
we
talking.
promised it. Women Talking. The last Best Picture nom that we haven't
We'll have
reviewed
them
yet.
all reviewed before Oscar time.
And we'll
And
probably...
yes.
Is next week going to be our picks? Or,
Yes. I
Oh,
was going to
yeah,
say, we're
yeah, I
probably going to
forgot.
cover some headlines, but mostly it's probably going to stick to just what we want to win and what we think will win for our
We
Oscar
do it every
show.
year. We tally it up. We've all won quite a few times, so it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. This year is, like always, not looking forward to it.
It's like every year it gets worse and worse.
The only thing that
Worse and
salvaged
worse.
last year was the slap. So we'll find
Well,
out.
maybe that'll happen again. Not with Will. He's banned.
No. Chris Rock's special, the first time he mentions it taped.
Kimmel's
is,
the host. Maybe he'll get slapped.
oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. I would pay.
Maybe
to see
Alec
that.
Baldwin will show up and he'll just shoot him.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
That's
that'll
one
raise
of
their
those
ratings.
crass jokes from Cocaine
that's
Bear.
right.
No, that one was good.
But no, I think it is funny because Chris Rock's special on Netflix drops this weekend, and it's the first time in a taped special that he mentions a joke about the slap.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward. It's gonna be a huge hit. I guarantee it.
Yep.
Alrighty, guys.
Huge
Hey-o.
hit. There you go.
That's gonna do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Me.
that's it.
Okay.
Me. That's right.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.